Good evening, everyone. Senator?
Yes, sir. Good to be with you.
Yes, sir. Welcome to the Let's Talk show on UrbanCast. I'm Jack. I'm going to be your host tonight. My business partner, Damon, he's not going to be here with us, so I'm going to do the interview directly myself tonight there, Senator. And we're going to be talking to everyone who's joining us. We're going to be talking about Senator Cleo Fields. He's a candidate for the Louisiana 6th Congressional District. Um, Senator Fields has a very long history of service and leadership, and tonight we're going to delve a little bit into his vision for the 6th Congressional District. But before we get started, I want to encourage everyone that's tuning in to this broadcast to engage with us. You can ask questions by putting them out there in the comment. If we get an opportunity to, we'll just definitely try to answer them. But more importantly, this election that we are getting ready to undergo on November the 5th is a very, very, very important election. And if you're not registered to vote, go out there and register to vote. You can do it online here in the state of Louisiana, govote.com. Your voice, it matters coming up. And for you young voters out there, specifically, you are the majority. Don't let nobody tell you differently. You are the majority. So, get engaged and definitely ask the questions that you might need and get to know your candidates. And tonight, we're going to get kicked off with Senator Cleo Fields. Senator Fields, we want to definitely say thank you for joining us tonight. Could you please introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about who you are, tell us about your time on the yard and all that kind of good stuff.
Well, first of all, Jack, let me thank you. I want to thank you for having me here tonight, and I'm glad we finally had a chance to do this because this is so important. In which the work that you're doing in Central Louisiana is important as well, and for your listenership. I mean, it is so important that people who are listening to your radio broadcast or your podcast. Be engaged. I mean, that means that they are citizens who care about their environments. They care about their community, and that's important. A little bit about me. I started running back when I was my whole vision for politics started when I was in the 6th grade.
Mm-hmm.
Never had any thought about being in politics. First in my family to run for office. I was in the 6th grade and come from a family of 10, raised by a single parent. Daddy died when I was 5. And in the 6th grade, I wanted to be a police officer, quite frankly. And from school, everybody would stand up and state their name and what they wanted to be in the future. And when my turn came around, I said, my name is Cleo Fields, and I wanted to be bigger than everybody else. I said, I want to be president of the United States of America when I grow up. And unbeknownst to me, I thought it was something great and incredible, but everybody laughs, including the teacher. And it was that day I said, well, I'm going to be president. And I just started focusing in on, what presidents do. How do they become presidents? And I knew they had to finish, high school. And I finished high school. I was vice president of my senior class. I knew they had to go to college, And I went to college and I became freshman class president at Southern. And then my senior year, I became student body president.
That's right.
And so, most presidents, ended up, when they were lawyers. So I went to law school, And I would tell people I went to law school to make the law, not to practice the law. That was a true story. And so when I went to law school, I graduated in '87, and when I graduated, most of my colleagues, were studying for the bar. Instead, I was running for office. So I was elected to the state senate at the age of 23, right out of law school. Became the youngest state senator in the nation. And when I served 5 years, became chairman of Senate and Governmental Affairs, my second term. And we created a second majority minority district. I was 28 years of age and I ran for Congress. And I was elected and became the youngest member of the 103rd Congress. And in the 104th Congress, I wanted to get more young people. So I went out and I recruited Harold Ford, for example. I recruited Jesse Jackson Jr. I recruited Patrick Kennedy, and I recruited some young folk to come and help me in Congress. And then it was redistricted. In '95, I ran for governor,
Mm-hmm.
and then the seat was redistricted in '97, and I had to come back home, and I started practicing law, and then I ran for the Senate again, and now we're here.
And now we're here.
Yeah. So that's it in a nutshell.
That's it in a nutshell. That's Cleo in a nutshell, huh? All right, all right. Well, tell me this. Here in the three, I guess you would say, in entire congressional district 6, the way it is laid out right now, Shreveport up on the north end of it, Ellicott right here in the middle, Baton Rouge on the southern end, and then when you spring over to Marksville and Opelousas area, crime and public safety rates have become a big concern. I know that they are here in Alexandria. And I mean, I think Alexandria probably sits at the top of that list from a per capita standpoint within the footprint of the cities that we are talking about. How will your role in Congress, how can you help the municipalities and the rural areas in Congress with this problem in crime?
Well, I don't think we should wait until I get to Congress.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I've actually done what I would call my share of people always talk about young people, are just disruptive. They're bad. They're ruffians. They're thugs. I take a different view. I mean, it was just like the Just Say No to Drugs campaign.
Mm-hmm.
People would say, just say no, give them something to say yes to. And so I started something in Louisiana called the Louisiana Leadership Institute, where we got young people, because when you talk about crime, it's mostly young people.
Mm-hmm.
We got young people and we gave them something positive to do.
Mm-hmm.
And we have an all-star band, for example. In fact, we're going to be in Alexandria for the Peabody Homecoming. I think they're going to perform there. But these are kids from all walks of life, from 5 different parishes. They all come under one umbrella, and we give them something positive to do. And I think all of us have to do that. It takes a village to raise a child. The government can't raise children. It takes all of us. When I was growing up, and when I would act up at my neighbor's house, my neighbor would spank me, and then I would hope that she didn't, tell my mama, because when my mama found out, I got another spanking. So at the end of the day, and not to mention school. When I was in school, if we act up at school, I mean, my mother actually took me to school one day and spanked me in front of the class, and that's how everybody was connected. So I just think we all play a role in reducing crime in our community. Now, another part of that is we got to give people opportunities. That's where the government comes in. You got to give them, economic opportunity. I got to go to Washington because I think we got to raise the minimum wage. I mean, people work hard every day, and at the end of the day, they're still poor. And it's not because they're lazy. It's because we need to pay them. We're not paying them for the work that they do. Mm-hmm. Paying somebody $7.25 an hour, listen, is obsolete. We hadn't raised the minimum wage in 15 years. It's time to do it. And I want to go to Congress to do that. So that's a role that government can play. Good quality schools. Why we got so many people dropping out? Why in Louisiana, we are at the 58th, 59th, in the nation as relates to, educational outcomes? Mm-hmm. Because we don't put enough in education. We pay our teachers the least, I mean, now, quite frankly, we've worked hard in the legislature to try to increase teacher pay. And I fought against the stipend. I wanted it to be a permanent pay raise because teachers can't buy bread or milk cheaper. And we don't put enough emphasis on education. So at the end of the day, I have worked hard to put emphasis on early childhood education. Because when all of the experts would say that a child's brain develops the most between, birth and 5 years old.
Mhm.
That's when we need to concentrate on these young people. We got to put a lot of emphasis on early childhood education, but it costs money. I passed a law, 2 years ago, to make kindergarten mandatory.
Mhm.
Should be mandatory. Because what happens is when they get to the third grade, we say, let Johnny can't read, and we're going to hold him back, and we're going to put him in another part of the class and all of that. At the end of the day, little Johnny can't read because we didn't invest in little Johnny in early childhood education.
That's right. That's right.
So there are things that the government can do. There are things that the community can do. There are things that all of us must do to have a vibrant, growing society and economy.
Yeah, and that leads us right into my next question. The economic disparities and the lack of access to livable wage jobs are pressing issues, and definitely in the entire district, in my opinion, the rural and the urban areas. What specific policies or initiatives would you advocate um, to help stimulate economic growth and create job opportunities, particularly in the underserved communities?
Well, let's talk about what has already been done in the Congress. Absent me, I'm not there, but
Right, right.
I'm impressed with that the Congress has passed, like an infrastructure bill, for example, because a lot of these small towns or rural communities, their infrastructures are just collapsing. Their water systems are collapsing, and that's a good thing. And I commend the members of Congress and the Biden administration for passing such a robust act. I think that was the right thing to do. But at the end of the day, in traveling across the district, there are a lot of small towns that can't even benefit from those dollars. Why can't they benefit from them? Because they they don't have the infrastructure to even apply for the monies. When I was in Congress 27 years ago, one of the things we decided to do, and we plan to do again because it's needed, uh, we plan to have a staff that will work with local governments so that they can revitalize their communities. There are a lot of opportunities that they can take advantage of that they just don't have the opportunity or the wherewithal to do so. That's where members of Congress come in. That's their job. It's one thing to appropriate money; it's another thing to actually get it out of the door.
Mhm.
And it would be our job to work with, Simsport, work with, even Alexandria, which is a mid-sized city,
Uh-huh.
to get it done. Now, when it comes to creating jobs, the more infrastructure dollars we can get to local governments, the more jobs they will create. And I just think that's something that's missing in the 6th Congressional District, where Congress can play a very important role.
Hmm. Access to quality education. Education has been something that you've been a big proponent of all along. And you know, education is also, the cornerstone of any community that's thriving and moving forward. But many areas in the sixth district face challenges in this regard. Um, what steps? I'm pretty sure you're going to go back and say, what steps have I also already done? but I want you to definitely talk about the stuff that you've
Yeah.
done in the state legislature, and but what specific steps will you make sure that you're going to ensure that every child in your district has access to when it comes down to educational resources? COVID taught us a big time lesson. We weren't prepared for that type of a shutdown.
Right.
And a lot of our young people, our school systems did not have the infrastructure to deal with it. But, education is just something that, we've got to start putting a lot more emphasis on and make sure we put the right resources. And it always seems to be that one area where we start to cut, and it's the one area where we should be, increasing. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Look, let's go back to first. Let me take a moment of personal privilege, which when you talk about education, I can always take that moment of personal privilege because, but for education, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you tonight as a member of the Senate and a former member of the U.S. Congress. Education is that great equalizer. And I would often wonder why my mother and my grandmother would always say, you got to go to school. And my mother only had a third grade education. But why is it this woman is pushing me so hard to go to school and to make good grades? And it's because she understood, that education was was the thing that I needed to break through, the thing that all of our kids need to break through. And so when I got to Congress, I was talking to some of my colleagues, and I was talking about education, and they were like, "Yeah, that's great." And I said, "Well, I want to join the education caucus." They said, "Well, we don't have an education caucus," And so I got Senator Wellstone from the Senate, and I told him to get me 10 members of the U.S. Senate. I got 10 members of the U.S. Congress, and we got together and we started an education caucus because it was important. And one of the first meetings we had, I said, let's put some federal money into building schools. And everybody said, look, man, that's the local government's responsibility. That's not the role of the federal government. Locals have to build schools. We help them, And I said, no, let's try. And we tried. And then we talked with President Clinton at that time. And we put several $1 billion in school infrastructure. And my attitude then was, we can build prisons. Why can't we build schools? So we did, Education is just so important. And we as a government, we have to make it a priority. Teachers pay, we got to increase, the kind of monies that we pay our teachers. When I was at Southern, perhaps when you were there, the largest department, if you recall, when we would go to a graduation at Southern, was education.
That's right.
We were like, oh Lord, did the education?
Yeah, you got to sit here and go through this long list.
Yeah. Now you go to not just Southern. Now you go to any college in Louisiana. The shortest, the least amount of graduates is in the field of education. We got a big, massive shortage of teachers, not only in Louisiana, but across the nation. We've passed laws to give teachers of certain disciplines incentives, waiving requirements just to get teachers in the classroom. States are stealing teachers from other states. Mississippi's taking taking some of our teachers. Texas are taking some of our teachers. We just have to, as a government, make education a priority. And until we do, we're going to always be slipping behind, not only, other states, but we're going to be slipping behind other countries further and further. Because, I don't want to call the country's name, but there are some countries that make education a priority.
That's right.
And we just don't make it the priority it needs to be. We fight over taking monies out of public schools and putting them in private schools. Right. Let's just make our public schools good and pay our teachers well and educate our kids early. And I bet you we have a better result because we'll be spending less money on the backside on jails and prisons, and we'll be spending more money on the front side.
Exactly. Senator Phil, you've had a strong focus on engaging with youth. You talked about it in your introduction. From from the creation of the Congressional Classroom to the Louisiana Leadership Institute, you've been in that role within the you know in engaging voters. How do you plan to continue to empower young people if elected to Congress? And what message do you have for the young voters in this district today?
Well, to the young voters, let me just say, I want you to encourage other young folk to register to vote and to actually get out and exercise that right. I remember I was in Michigan with Reverend Jesse Jackson
Mm-hmm.
in '84. I was student body president, and Reverend Jackson, chose me because I was president of the largest HBC in the country at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Wanted me to be his surrogate. He wanted me to go around the country to inspire young people to register and to actually get out and vote. And I got other folk from all over the country to assist me. But I remember I was speaking to a group of young folk, and they were not excited, and I
Okay.
had to get them excited. It was my job to tell them why, because the days of saying, you need to register to vote because people died to give you this right. Yeah, they did, and you should. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but it got to be more than that. Like the older person in a housing project in Pineville. You can't just say, go register to vote. How is registering to vote going to change my condition?
That's right.
And so I would say to young people, listen, you're the first uh, line of defense when it comes to changing your condition. And if you don't vote, you don't have a voice. So you need to start with that. And then after you vote, then you need to keep and hold the people you vote for accountable. I would say that at Southern, as a Southern student body president. I remember when Dr. Jesse Stone had a very frank conversation with me in the president's office. He said, Cleo, you can do more than I can do. You're a student leader. Y'all don't have, obligations. I have to some degree, follow what, the state tells me to do. But this school is underfunded. And we got students registered to vote, and we would have, you probably recall, for the Greek show, you couldn't go to the Greek show unless you were registered to vote. You couldn't go to the homecoming concert unless you were registered to vote, because we were going to party for a purpose. And that's what we did in '84
Mm-hmm.
at Southern before it was popular.
Mm-hmm.
And then we marched to to the state capitol, and legislators then started taking us serious. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and I just think young people have such enthusiasm. They don't have the obligations that our parents have. They are free to do and say what they want to say. So if they say and do the right thing, it's always great. And I was meeting with a group of Southern University student leaders. What was that, Tuesday night? Uh,
Uh-huh.
I mean, so much energy, man. So much energy. So much energy. And if we focus that energy into positive things, which they are, uh,
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited because, you say I'm at the top of the ticket, but there's somebody higher than me on the ticket.
That's true. He
Yeah,
ain't Louisiana, man.
yeah, I get it, but
uh,
and that's some enthusiasm. I mean, the
right.
people really, young people want hope. They want somebody they can believe in. They are not easily persuaded. So yeah, but I'm gonna continue to do the things I've already done. I'm gonna uh, actually, I started the congressional classroom. Now most members of Congress have a congressional classroom. That was a good thing. Now
Right.
that they're doing it, so obviously we're going to do that. We brought the entire Washington government, U.S. government, to Baton Rouge, Alexandria, Shreveport, Monroe. We brought them all here. We brought the President of the United States to meet with the congressional classroom. We brought, you know, General Colin Powell to meet with the classroom.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, got to get kids something, positive to do, and we plan to do that in the future.
Senator Fields, I tell you, in this media realm that we're in, and we're hyper focused on local happenings and local news and what's going on around us here in Central Louisiana. But we do cover, some of the state stuff and some of the things that happen in the surrounding cities. And and the young folk are, hyper engaged in what's actually going on. But one of the things that I've seen over the last couple of major election cycle, 2018, 2019, and then here recently in 23, 24, is I saw a huge drop off. I saw, when you go look at the raw data, you see an uptick in young participation in 2018, 2019. 23, 24, it just kind of like went into vaporware. We recently put an article together about, just looking at the two parties, the Democratic Party, the Republican Party. It seems as though, they had almost kind of like written off the young voter and that kind of thing. And it's kind of odd, and sometimes they say, well, they won't go vote, but I think one of our observations is that they'll vote when you're telling them to go vote. If you come in their space, today the media and the way we consume information is changing. So that's why we will say to you right now, we're really glad you and the other congressional candidates decided to say, hey, we want to go over here and talk to these guys, because they do listen, they do follow what's going on in local government and different things of that nature. Now, I will say we have a very diverse group of people from an age perspective and race perspective, male, female, that kind. So we got a good diversity going on over here. But on the same token, it's important for candidates to come in this space and literally come in a new way that they're consuming their information, and that is to get on these podcasts, to get on, have conversations with us. I mean, we built this whole thing around new technology. I went ahead. I remember at Southern when I first went there, writing Fortran programs on punch cards, but it was kind of like an initiation thing. I've never seen another one of them things again. It was kind of funny. It was only one time they made us do it, but they did, just to let us know where we started from, and where we were going. But on the same token, I think it's important that candidates, get into this space, and because I think they'll go vote if you bring that right message to them.
I'm excited about young people. I think, look, my whole success in politics was, I have to contribute it to the involvement of young people.
That's right.
When I won office, in '88, my first office as a 23-year-old kid, I won by 314 votes. The margin of victory were young people, because the entire Southern University band was registered to vote. The football team was registered to vote. The basketball, right. And at that time, you couldn't just walk to the mini dome to register to vote. I brought that precinct to Southern. We had to actually march to Rosenwald Elementary to actually vote. Even after we registered to vote, and we couldn't register in person at that time, we had to actually go downtown. We had to lead marches downtown to go and register to vote. And then on election day, we had to lead a march to go and vote. But Southern students believed that their vote made a difference.
That's right.
It really did, And every young person who's listening to the sound of my voice now, you make a difference. The good thing about election day, no matter how rich you are, no matter how poor you are, no matter the size of your house, the size of your car, or your bank account, on election day, everybody is equal. You can only vote once.
Only one.
The same vote that everybody else have. So, I mean, I just think election is the equalizer in our society. Right. And every person, ought to exercise that right.
Looking ahead, what is your vision for the 6th Congressional District? Given, it's the new kid on the block, created, what have you. What key changes do you hope to see over the next couple of years, and how do you plan to lead those efforts? Specifically, a lot of times they say all of the action happens down there in south of I-10. And so I'm gonna get a little selfish since we're a little north of I-10 and say, what's gonna happen? What are we gonna see up here in Alexandria and Shreveport?
Look, people are gonna get representation. I don't care where they live. I don't care if you live in Shreveport. I don't care if you live in Natchitoches, DeSoto, Rapides, anywhere in between.
Yes, sir.
At the end of the day, it is my job to represent every single voter. When I assembled this staff, when I assembled the staff, several years ago, when I was first elected to Congress, the first thing I did was put a staff together and said, now listen, it's our job. Every day you come to work, you work for the people of the 4th, at that time it was the 4th Congressional, the 4th Congressional District. And there were lawsuits. People were challenging. Look, I know what it feels like to have a district challenge. The district that I've represented has always been challenged, So, and I said to my staff, don't let that be a distraction. Don't let the lawyers fight on that front. Let's bring quality services to the people of the 4th Congressional District. And look, we had a record number of town hall meetings because I believe in bringing Congress to the people. You never know what the people want or desire. I wouldn't have known even about this podcast had I not stopped into a barbershop and met you. I mean, look, you got to get out and meet people, and we held a record number of town hall meetings because we wanted to know what the people needed. And then at the end of the day, my staff was always upset with me because they said, you're overworking us. Everybody else office closed at 5. We got to be at 7 o'clock, doing all this constituent service stuff. But that's what you were employed to do. And they did it with a smile, quite frankly. And we worked hard because there were many people in this district, in that district at that time, who had never seen, never spoken to, never engaged with a member of Congress.
That's right.
And that was, to me, it was, I didn't understand it. When I was in Washington, I spent 4 weekends of the 4 years I was in Washington, D.C. I would go to work on a Tuesday and come back on a Thursday and take care of the concerns of my constituents. Now, let me tell you a little bit about this district, because I hear a lot of talk about, well, the district won't last. Well, maybe not. You might be right, but you could be wrong. Let me tell you why it's so important and why I fought so hard in the legislature 30 years ago and why I fought so hard these past few years. Because Black ever elected to the U.S. Congress in the country, most people don't know this, I didn't know it when I was elected, was a Black man from Louisiana. John Willis Menard in 1887 was elected to the U.S. Congress from the 2nd Congressional District of New Orleans. He was the first Black man to ever go to Congress. And when he went to Congress to take his rightful seat, he was elected by 60% of the vote in Louisiana, won by 60% of the vote. And a gentleman from Ohio, Mr. Garfield, who later became the 20th president of the United States, took the well of the U.S. Congress and said, Mr. Speaker, I object to the qualifications of the gentleman from Louisiana. And he said, and by the way, it is too early for a Negro to be seated in this body. And they voted against him and sent him back to Louisiana. And he never served a single day. And then Louisiana elected Charles Nash from Opelousas, who was the first Black elected and seated. But since Reconstruction, we've only elected 4 Black people to the U.S. Congress. That's why this seat is worth fighting for. The first Black person was William Jefferson. The second one was yours truly. The third one was Cedric Richmond, and the fourth one is Troy Carter. 4 Blacks in the history of this country, I mean, since Reconstruction, have been elected to the U.S. Congress from Louisiana. Louisiana's population has always been very high, like 33% Black. We cannot have representation unless we have inclusion. And that was the point of my fight in the legislature and other members of the Legislative Black Caucus, because it's the right thing to do. And I think that the district will stand. But we're going to leave that up to the lawyers.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to run for it, and then we hope to be elected to it, and we hope to provide services to the people.
Wow. You know, when you think about as senator, I feel like I have met. I think I know I have met Cedric a couple of times. You and I have passed on the yard, and here we are talking right now. Troy Carter is there now, and then it's something to think about. 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and you actually know them, and that's kind of sad in the history of this state. As really when you break it down like that, that is something to really think about. For sure.
Yeah, it is, and I think that's going to be a motivating factor to get people out to actually vote. People, often say, "Why are you doing it, Cleo?" And I'm doing it because I want to go and finish what I started. We started some good things. I want to finish it. And a lot of my colleagues are still there. Jim Cliven, he and I were members of the same class. Benny Thompson, members of all of the Maxine Waters came a little bit before me. Only one term. Before me. So a lot of, and we just lost Sheila Jackson Lee. I mean,
that's right. That's right.
Yeah. But there are a lot of soldiers in Washington right now that's been fighting this good fight for a long time. John Lewis was there before all of us. John Lewis, was a remarkable guy. He had gone through so much, and taken so much pain from people in this country. For us, and that's why I want to go back and pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Act.
I want to go back and make it look good trouble, huh?
Yeah, good trouble. Look, because it's the right thing to do.
Right.
Now, we don't have subsection 5, and we should. I mean, there cannot be a bigger honor to give or to bestow upon John Lewis than to pass the Voting Rights Act. And I hope to go back and help my colleagues do just that. And that's another reason why this election is so important.
Senator Fields, before we wrap up, is there anything else you'd like to say to our audience tonight?
Well, I want to thank you, Jack, and your partner. I'm disappointed he's not on, man. Look, and it's probably because we've changed the time, and I apologize.
No worries.
I really do apologize. But look, I want to look. Coming on this time is easy, all right. But I want to come on again. After this election is over with, I want to come on. If I'm elected and the people bless me, I want to come on doing my service, because I'm gonna need you. I need the partnership with you and others, so that the people of the 6th Congressional District could be represented. People haven't been, there are people in this district who have not had the kind of representation that they truly deserve, and it's going to take all of us to make that happen.
That's right.
And I'm gonna be calling on you. Because I'm gonna need you to help me, communicate with the people, and I want to hear what they're saying. Not only as a candidate, I want to hear what they have to say as a congressman, which is most important, and try to meet their needs. Thank you so much, man.
Yeah, and that was one of the statements right there from one of the folk that is sitting out there listening to you right there. I don't know if I think you should be able to see that.
Yeah, I see Anita Harkins Haynes. Thank you very much for that shout out, so to speak. But
Yeah.
thank all of the voters. Thank y'all so much, and it's good to have you. It's good to be with you, Reva, and I hope to be with you again in the future.
Yeah, absolutely, sir. We look forward to definitely staying in contact with you, and anytime you need to, anytime you want to speak with the folk at the most engaged media outlet in Central
I'm
Louisiana,
coming to you. I'm coming to you.
across media spectrums, TV, radio, and the social side. Make sure you give us a holler and sometimes our focus, because you hit us at that 5 o'clock time. We really like to do these at 7, and the reason why we do it like that, Senator, is because of the fact that's when our people have come home from work.
Right.
But
No, you're right. You're
yeah,
right.
but they and trust me, they'll come back and they say, "Well, you did everybody else at 7, Jack. Why did you do Cleo at 5?"
We'll do it again. We'll do it again.
And I'm gonna tell them. I'm gonna say Cleo was the one who said 5.
I really was, and I apologize because we have another pressing event right
Mhm.
now, and that's the only reason why we did that. But we'll do it again.
Okay, absolutely. And and when you're in, just let us know. And if we can uh, touch bases and that kind of stuff. Just make sure you reach out to us and that kind of thing. We definitely want to keep the community informed to the point that Senator Fields, some of the folk around here, politicians, and I'm saying it, I ain't hiding it. I'm not gonna hide what I'm gonna say. Sometimes they don't like us telling the truth. You know what I mean? But it's really
Oh,
important that we keep an engaged, truthful platform and that kind of thing. And so, it means a lot to the community, and because a lot of people want to see a lot of things happen these days.
okay.
Again, we want to just say thank you so much for sharing your insights with your insights and visions with us tonight, there, Senator. We truly appreciate your commitment to service and your dedication to the people of Louisiana. I also want to thank our listeners out there for tuning in and engaging with us, and most importantly, for being active participants in our democracy. A special shout out to our sponsors, Math Makes Sense, National Auto and Tire, Sadler's Towing, and Long's Products. We couldn't do this without your support. Remember, everyone, your vote is your voice. So let's get out there and make sure you're heard. Let's see. It was a couple of more comments over here, Senator, before we leave out of here. Uh, it's two. The barbershop guys say, "Come back and see me at the barbershop."
Sterling,
And,
man, I love Sterling. Sterling and I, we're actually gonna do a little. He wants me to have a real talk at his barbershop, and I plan to do that.
mm-hmm.
And in fact, I'm stealing his idea. I'm doing it in Lafayette, and I'm doing it. But I'm gonna first do it in Alexandria because I think that's a real good opportunity to engage with voters. But thank y'all so much. Good talking with you.
And here's Damon. Damon, this is my business
Damon.
partner right here. Damon, say thank you for your service and to the people of Louisiana.
Thanks, Damien. I miss you, buddy. All right, take care.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and end the stream, there, Senator.
All right, thank you very much.